it developed as a commercial port. In fact, that's really what the value of it was you know, after World War I, was the development of a commercial presence. And ironically enough, a lot of it was with Japan, which on the one hand we were competitors, but also traders, you know. It was the first submarine base, you know, on the Pacific coast, because most of the submarine activity was done on the, you know, the eastern coast. When they captured about a half a dozen German submarines, because they were advanced, that they brought them all to San Pedro, where they did experiments on it. They had submarine people come down, and they learned a lot for the future of American submarine force. We took about a half a dozen submarines from England that had stored them, and it was agreed that they would come here to San Pedro. And in fact, some of the sheds where they did some of the work are still in existence, you know. And so that was a very important precedent, and the Navy became familiar with it. The situation was attuned to what Japan did. To give you an example, when they went into Manchuria in 1933, or the naval people ordered the coming of the Atlantic fleet, which were basically cruisers. So if you add the cruisers versus the battleships, you know, which are heavier, you have a situation in which the heaviest American warships would be based here. Even Wilson is going back to World War I, President Woodrow Wilson. Wilson decided to send the battleships to Los Angeles or San Pedro Harbor. So that's really the whole development. I think he sent maybe 15 or 20 battleships here. They came here with the idea to watch Japan. I mean, that was our basic policy of coming in to watch Japan. Yeah, the ships themselves, the Arizona, the Pennsylvania, the Oklahoma, New York, Texas, the Idaho, Tennessee, California, Colorado, Maryland, West Virginia, all were here as part of what they called the battle fleet. And the cruisers came too. So, I mean, this was really the site of the heavy ships of the United States fleet. Okay, the Japanese were pressing us and doing all kinds of things that we could not tolerate from an international relations point of view. Like the fact that they went deeper into China and they had their eyes on Southeast Asia. And so as a warning, we were doing a lot of warning. As a warning, we Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, decided to send the fleet to Pearl Harbor as a deterrent. Now, as it turned out, it became less a deterrent than it did a way to really deal with the Americans. So they attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. And that was a shocker here in this area, because so many of the crews you know, were from Long Beach, from San Pedro, from other areas on the West Coast. And I think on the Arizona, one thing that I heard that I thought was very interesting was the fact that the public here did not hear about it for a couple of months. After Pearl Harbor, was attacked, there was no communication. Everything was silenced. And so you can imagine how the population in this area was horrified. They didn't know at all. That was told to me by a man who wrote for the Long Beach Press Telegram, and so that was really something.
So they had heard the announcement, the declaration of war, but they didn't know if like their sons were
Exactly. The Iowa, which was based here, in fact, became a fixture during the Korean War, and she played a big role in the western part of the Korean Peninsula, where she bombarded. She had the heaviest guns of any battleship, like 14-inch guns. She had 16-inch guns. I mean, she was a powerhouse. And she'd go into the western part of the Korean Peninsula and really knock them out. I mean, it was to be sitting in a tank in the western part, with that kind of shelling going on. So she also did operations finishing up World War II. We are more prepared than any other harbor for it. The historical development of the American fleet, as it ripened for World War II especially, because that's really when it was decisive. And a lot of the training went on here.
So you believe the Iowa belongs here?
Yeah, I believe it belongs here.